We begin tonight with a chilling development out of the East China Sea, one that has sent shockwaves through the global community. Taiwan, the self-governing island, has been reunified with mainland China. But this wasn't achieved through military force, at least not in the traditional sense. According to reports coming out of Beijing, the People's Liberation Army utilized a sophisticated cyber campaign to effectively neutralize US military capabilities in the region, paving the way for a peaceful, albeit forced, reunification. China is said to have exploited vulnerabilities in critical US infrastructure, defense systems, and even weapons platforms, rendering them inoperable. The events unfolding in the East China Sea serve as a stark warning. In the 21st century, cyber warfare is no longer a hypothetical threat. It is a reality, and one that we must confront with urgency and resolve. The world has changed, and we must change with it, or risk facing a similar fate.
Please welcome to the stage DARPA's Deputy Director, Mr. Rob McHenry.
The world has changed. Good morning. I'd like to start by introducing some technical jargon that is really important to today's discussion. It's a term that I can't help but use when I talk about this subject. The term is mew. That is the sound of our frontline systems going offline on day one of a conflict. It's the sound of US critical infrastructure, our water, our power, transportation for food, going offline, endangering our society and undermining our will for conflict. That is the sound of us losing the next global conflict before it even starts. This future is based on our love-hate relationship with software. We deploy amazing cyber-physical systems that propel our society and our national security at a velocity and to levels that have been previously unattainable. But we write code that is inherently filled with vulnerabilities. Our adversaries exploit those vulnerabilities, capture critical intellectual property, undermine the operational capabilities of our systems. All too often after the fact, after the damage has been done, we then patch those vulnerabilities. We mitigate the risk. Sometimes in deploying the mitigation, we embed the next generation of vulnerability to keep that cycle going around and around, investing billions of dollars a year in cybersecurity, but never achieving security. We accept this crazy dynamic because there is no better way. Code has bugs. It always will, it always has, and it always will. Test and evaluation of next generation capabilities finds a vulnerability, but we have to get that capability deployed. So what do? We waive that vulnerability. A globally deployed operational system, we discover a critical vulnerability, but we depend on that system day in and day out, and there's no better solution. So we accept that risk. And oh, by the way, you better classify that vulnerability so that the adversaries can't exploit it. Risk avoided. This has led to a learned helplessness that is rampant throughout our system engineering processes and culture, both in the national security and the commercial domains. Once the cyber risk is accepted, it undermines the incentive for the next generation of program manager to invest scarce capital to actually do anything to mitigate that risk and change this dynamic. It is hard for me to overstate how widespread and pernicious this cultural dynamic is within our national security infrastructure. At DARPA, we work at the frontier of both offensive and defensive cyber. And that often gives us a front row seat to watch as risks are ignored and credible solutions are not adopted because the incentive structure is just not there to drive that change. Given this dynamic, the rampant vulnerabilities throughout our systems, the increasing capabilities of our competitors and adversaries, it is not an overstatement to say that we could lose the next conflict on day one. But is there a better way? What if we could create software that is inherently, provably secure? That is why we're here today. DARPA's mission is to ensure the technological superiority of the United States and to prevent technological surprise. And in that vein, going back more than a decade, a DARPA program called HACMS, High Assurance Cyber Military Systems, gave us a glimpse of a better way through software formal methods. Now, I'm conscious of the fact that I'm standing in front of a room that contains some of the people that developed and pioneered formal methods. For the rest of you, in a nutshell, formal methods is the creation of a mathematical representation of software. And you use that mathematical representation to be able to run mathematical proofs about what that software can do, and more importantly, about what it can't be made to do outside of its design condition. Mathematically guaranteed security. Now that's interesting. Since HACMS demonstrated the deployment of formal methods on real-world military systems to make them virtually unhackable, DARPA has executed a stack of formal methods programs that have broadened the usability and scalability of the platform. Programs that automatically generate verified parsers, a simple step that in and of itself could eliminate the vast majority of vulnerabilities in our deployed code. Programs that deal with the retrograde problem of deploying formal methods into the billions of lines of deployed code, including binary, when we don't even have source code for those legacy deployed systems. Programs that are working to integrate formal methods into our software development tool chain so that you don't need to be a PhD mathematician to efficiently deploy formal methods in new code as it's being generated. And programs that take advantage of the mathematical framework underlying formal methods to automate software certification and authority to operate that is the bane of so many military systems and our ability to agilely deploy new code. So one day within DARPA, we're having a program review with the Information Innovation Office, I2O, where this body of work has been executed. And the I2O team is proudly describing how through this stack of programs, they have successfully developed and deployed elements of formal methods into more than 20 national security systems. 20 systems. That sounds awesome. But any of you who have worked with DARPA know that we always ask for more. And when we took a step back and asked the question, have we fulfilled our mission to prevent technological surprise from rampant cybersecurity vulnerabilities in our national security infrastructure? The answer is clearly no. So we challenged I2O and put the full weight of the agency behind them to aim higher. What would it take to achieve rapid deployment of formal methods throughout our military, throughout our critical infrastructure, throughout our society, to end the era of cyber vulnerabilities as we know it? That is the DARPA Resilient Software Systems Initiative. Over the course of the day, you will hear from key government and commercial leaders to share their assessment of the threat and their commitment to solving this problem once and for all, starting with Alex Bulazal, the Cyber Director for the National Security Council. Dr. Kathleen Fisher, the I2O Office Director, who, by the way, was the original program manager for the HACMS program. She's been in this from day one. Kathleen will talk about what DARPA is doing to embed formal methods in all of our research going forward, and opportunities for us to work together to embed formal methods into your organization. You will hear the stories of early adopters in the field, offering examples of how they've successfully deployed formal methods at scale. And interestingly, stories about how that not only has achieved the security objective, but it has allowed them to deliver software faster and cheaper. More secure, faster, and cheaper. What's not to like about that? After lunch, you'll hear from a set of current DARPA program managers working in this area with some of their performers. And they're going to talk about the formal methods tool set that's available to you today and how to jumpstart your organization on that path to implement these tools. In our last session of the day, you'll hear from Department of Defense leaders from the offices of the Undersecretary of Defense for Research and Engineering and the Office of Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment about how they're developing best practice guides and acquisition models to drive adoption across the military. And we'll close the day out with a video message from DARPA's boss, the Honorable Emil Michael, the new Undersecretary for R&E, and hear his mandate for us to get this job done. We have curated this event to kickstart the new market for formal methods, to enable those of you who want to be on the right side of this wave but don't have the internal resources and capabilities to implement it, to find those companies that are leading the charge with formal method tools and talent. Now, if you look around you, you'll notice that people may have different colored lanyards than you do. This is your matchmaking key for the day. If you're a company looking for formal methods capabilities, a yellow, go find yourself a purple. A company offering a formal method solution or tool for you to implement. Talk to some oranges about what the state of the art of the research frontier and what's coming down the pipeline. And once you've conspired to come up with some awesome example of how you can deploy formal methods in the near term, go find a blue, go find a government representative and pitch them on your awesome idea. Now, if you prefer a more structured approach, a more structured smorgasbord of formal methods, there are also more than 50 posters outside the ballroom here where you can engage with representatives of formal methods research and tools and capabilities who are eager to talk to you about how they can help. At DARPA, we swing for the fences, demanding high-risk, high-payoff research with the goal of providing pivotal offsets that change the national security landscape in our favor. There are a lot of awesome bets in our portfolio, but I believe that the Resilient Software Systems Initiative will be DARPA's impact of this decade, eliminating cybersecurity vulnerabilities as we know it. Our goal is to flip a bit in every one of your minds. It is simply no longer okay to accept risk of cyber vulnerabilities. We have a better solution. We know how to do better. We all must do better. Today is the last day of the era of cyber vulnerabilities, and I look forward to working with you to define the new area of provably secure software systems that we can trust and rely on. Thank you.